Hello, fun. My name's Nikki, and I'm here at the Midwest Regional in Arlington Heights, Illinois, with Team 5847 Ironclad. They're having an incredibly strong season, winning the Minnesota Bluff Country Regional, and recently putting up a smashing high score with their robot here in Arlington Heights. They've got a lot of cool stuff on their robot, from the brain pan you can see right now, all the way up into various aspects of the robot, like their intake and all of their shit on the move and interesting code. All this and more coming up on Behind the Bumpers. Now we're starting off with Bryce to talk about their electronics and brain pan. Let's take it away, Bryce.
All right, so this year we decided to do a brain pan. Previous years we've always done our electronics mounted in the center of a robot. This year we wanted more of an open hopper, and so we decided to do a brain pan to clear up more space so we have a bigger hopper for a higher capacity. With the brain pan itself, it has helped us keep all of our wires organized and troubleshooting a lot easier. Everything is easy to find with labels, and they all have, every single part of the electronic system has their own spot so that you can find them. They're easily accessible, and electronics aren't getting as damaged as much.
Absolutely, Bryce. Now, one thing I do wonder about, what was it like getting this all implemented? I mean, I can tell that this is, this can be tricky to actually make work. How did you get all the wiring done? How did you get the design work to make this a good fluid system ready to roll?
Yeah, so our build team decided to build the drivetrain for us, and once we had the drivetrain, we were able to get the drivetrain itself wired up, so then they could start adding on all of our mechanisms. Once the mechanisms were added on, we were able to wire those as they were put on. So we had a drive base to start coding, but as we had it built, we could always add on more to it. And with that being under the bumper, it wasn't as hard to wire with previous years where it was more of a struggle because we're trying to fight around with all the mechanisms. This year is pretty self-explanatory and easy to just put together.
Before we get to our next segment, we'd like to thank the following. It isn't too late to order competition apparel for your team at FRC Tees. Founded by FIRST alumni and offering a free 14-day turnaround with expedited options available, go to frctees.com to see why hundreds of teams are making FRC Tees their first choice for their apparel needs. That's frctees.com. For over 100 years, Kettering University has offered a better education because from day one, that education has been built on hands-on, co-op learning. Kettering's impressive alumni network includes founders, presidents, CEOs, and frontrunners who have a reputation for transforming industries with their resolute leadership. Apply today at kettering.edu/first.
Now we're moving over to Lowe to take a look at their intake system.
So our intake, we went through a couple different iterations throughout the season. So at first, you're going to prototype and figure out what works best. Our first prototype this year was a 6-bar intake, and we tried that out. Our build team built the prototype that CAD gave us, and it worked, but we discovered that it was kind of flimsy. And when you're having an intake that extends over your frame perimeter, as we do right now, you want it to be structurally very intricate. So we had another prototype, which was our slapdown, which is what you see on our robot now. Our slapdown intake is connected to our hopper walls, and we have an extendable hopper. So at the beginning of the match, our intake starts up, if you want to lift it up. And once you hear that buzzer and auto starts, it will pop down with the hopper walls coming with it. And so that increases our hopper capacity. And you can see once it pops down, you have the 4 walls, the 4 rollers that go down. And it's about 3 fuel wide. So we can touch those 3 fuel and they'll get lifted up into the hopper. And as you can see, it's very quick. So it's a touch-it-on intake, and so that made us be able to be really efficient and intake fuel quickly and keep our hopper filled. And like I talked about, we went through a lot of different prototyping throughout the season, throughout all of our aspects, and we took a lot of inspiration from the Cheesy Pooch robot in 2019. And we were able to work with our CAD members and our build season to work together and make sure that we have a robot that we're really proud of. And we were able to make that happen.
Absolutely, Lo, thank you. Now, one thing I did want to ask about this robot, I saw how well and very quickly the touch-it-own system worked. You mentioned the prototyping work to decide between a 4-bar or a 6-bar and a slapdown. Mm-hmm. Was there any more prototyping work to kind of get that compression just right, the orientation of the wheels and bars just right? I know there's a lot of different approaches to that side of things in this game.
Yeah, so we changed out a couple of the wheels. Our compression was actually pretty set from the very beginning. We changed the spacing between the wheels and the spacing of the shafts throughout changing the panels of the intake and changing the spacing that you see here between the 4 shafts that we have, and adding this hex shaft right here that just kind of creates a strong, like, it keeps the panels together and it doesn't flex as much. So there were like little things like that where we were like changing the gear ratios and things like that. But being able to make those changes has just made us be able to continue and improve our robot.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Lo. Now we can move on to Hunter to talk about their shooter system.
Yeah, so our shooter system, we're having a single shooter with a turreted 3D printed gear ring, and we are using the Thrifty Bot Lantern Pinion gear, as one of our mentors had interned from there, and we've seen great things about that, allowing us to have an accurate pose estimation based off of our vision and code, which we'll talk about more later. But with that, we have it set to where our driver can hold down a single button, and then in the turret, it's going to rotate to where it's estimating the hub to be at, and then it'll instantly start flying up and trying to score. So during that, after it's trying to get its scoring mechanism going, our flywheels will spin up, and then our indexer will run, and that's how we'll be shooting fuel, allowing us to do a single operation, a single button to be firing our shooter system. And during that whole time, we experienced some teams where they would be trying to push us down. So we recently implemented a locking wheels button to where we'll turn our swerve wheels 45 degrees in. So with that in the turret, it's almost impossible to make us be missing our shots. And you'd have to be playing very aggressive defense to start altering our course. And to use our 360 degree turret, we actually had a 3D printed energy chain that is using a spring to be pulling it back once it reaches its neutral state. And this is a bi-directional energy chain, allowing us to rotate both left and right based off of our turret, so we can constantly be powering our shooter system.
That's some very impressive stuff, Hunter. Now, turrets are obviously very complicated mechanisms, and you've been working well all day from what I've been able to see. How do you make sure something like this remains robust in the face of the challenges of the first robotics competition?
So to begin with, we start by just having our turret at a 0 position, which is the position we raise our intake out at. This is our default 0 position. And then doing that, we have a gearbox underneath our turret, which once our motor's spinning our turret gear to the lantern pinion, it's also spinning some 3D printed herringbone gears that go to an absolute encoder, allowing us to get an accurate position of our turret without having to do any complex math, that our robot allows us to have a quicker and more robust system for pose estimation and angle.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Hunter. Now, finally, we can move on to Emily to talk about their code and shoot on the move systems.
So one of the things that we really worked on improving in between our week 1 and this competition has been our shoot on the move. On our robot, we have 4 cameras up along the front and the sides, giving us about a 200-degree field of vision. So we always know where a robot is at any time, even if there's a robot blocking the front or one of the sides of our robot, which is really important. So using that, we're able to have a pulse estimation of where we are in the field. And then at our practice field, we set it up so that we tested out multiple preset shots and figured out, okay, what velocity and what angle do we need the turret to be at? And so using that, we're able to create a mapping of the field and tell, based off where we are, okay, what is our estimated velocity and angle that we need for that? And so that's kind of how we've set up our shoot on the move.
Absolutely, yeah. And one thing for shoot on the move I know is that while the math itself is more or less vector math, I know that getting it actually tuned and locked in working well can be rather challenging. How would you say that process went of getting it to be a properly locked shoot on the move where you can just know that your drivers can do whatever moves they need to and the turret will do what it needs to lock on those fuel?
So with all of that, we start by, on our practice field, we set up the able tags of the hub, the trenches, the tower, and the outpost, just so we have our whole aligned zone set up. And so we can, no matter what, one of our cameras will be able to see those able tags and then we are using our pose estimation to estimate where we are on the field. And then it's a whole game of we're going to be slightly moving the robot over, and then plotting its angle and velocity that it wants to be shooting at. And then we fine tune that to be, if it's shooting underpowered, we'll increase it. If it's shooting it too hard, we'll back it off a bit. So with that, we're getting this whole flow table set up. So then while our robot's going through that, it's able to estimate the differences between every single position. And then it will take that, use the math that it's heading using the vectoring math, and then say, okay, the pose estimation for there is going to be this. So it's allowing that to be adding some lead onto our turret and having it to where ours we're shooting, the fuel is going to be landing directly into the hub.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, all. Well, Ironclad, thank you so much for your time today. Wishing you all the best as we approach Alliance selection. You've got an incredibly impressive robot, and I think you all have great things in your future. Thanks so much for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to stay up to date on future fun videos. For over 100 years, Kettering University has offered a better education because from day one, that education has been built on hands-on, co-op learning. Kettering's impressive alumni network includes founders, presidents, CEOs, and frontrunners who have a reputation for transforming industries with their resolute leadership. Apply today at kettering.edu/first. It isn't too late to order competition apparel for your team at FRC Tees. Founded by First alumni and offering a free 14-day turnaround with expedited options available, go to frctees.com to see why hundreds of teams are making FRC Tees their first choice for their apparel needs. That's frctees.com.